Hi, I'm Neil Druckmann, creative director.
And I'm Troy Baker, I played Joel.
And I'm Ashley Johnson, and I play Ellie.
So first cinematic here, you'll see as we get to the end, I mean, this opening image, we wanted to match what we did at the end with image of Ellie.
Tommy, listen to me. He is the contract.
I think it's such an interesting thing to start off with, not only in the past, but also to start off basically.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were discussing as we're iterating on this opening sequence, because it used to be, it was all seen through Joel's eyes. But then it became a lot more interesting to think of it as you're seeing it through Sarah's eyes, because Sarah is really kind of, the whole game is about this relationship between Joel and Ellie, but here Sarah kind of embodies what the relationship is going to eventually become.
And that was probably one of the hardest roles to cast too, with Sarah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of that. This scene was, you know, that was one of the audition scenes, and it was so amazing when Hannah came in that it just, I mean, what you're seeing right now, that was the chemistry, and she was amazing. It's like kind of like a younger Dakota Fanning. Just there's an old soul behind those eyes.
Yeah, and she could turn it on and off between each take.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, she was crazy. She's amazing.
It's always a little awkward, right? You have a 12-year-old someone on the set, and you're doing this pretty dark stuff.
Especially with the way that we work too.
All right, let's hold off on some of the jokes today, guys.
You started helping out with the mortgage then.
Yeah, you wish.
And this piece of music, actually, we were struggling to find which piece to play here. And then Gustavo wrote this thing for the VGAs just to play before we showed the trailer. And right away I heard it, I was like, that's got to go in the opening. This is the theme kind of like the relationship between Joel and his daughter that later becomes the theme between Joel and Ellie.
Hallican Drops,
Pelican drops.
the name of the band on her t-shirt. And where did you get that?
My daughter came up with that. My 2.5-year-old daughter named one of her dolls that. And we're searching for a name for a band. I'm like, I got a name for a band.
So this is gonna be the first time that I've ever seen this scene. This was one specifically that I really didn't want to once we did it. And when we first talked about doing this in the very, very beginning, I knew this scene was gonna come. And I told you, I was like, give me a heads up when this day comes, because it's not gonna be a good one.
Well, the thing with this scene, it's a super difficult scene to shoot. The first time we shot it, we did like at least 15 takes or something crazy like that. And then we thought we had it in the can. And
Well, I thought,
well, no, we all thought. We thought we came back to work and we started putting it in. And for me, there was just something that was, I felt like we could convey the same amount of emotion with less.
yeah.
And it was a hard thing to tell Troy because everybody put so much into it, and it's like, we got to do it again.
Well, I remember that
we got to
day
come back to this.
when you came back and you told me that we have to do this again. Obviously, you know, you'll see why what we're talking about. But this is the defining moment for Joel. This is where he draws that line in the sand, where he has few moral lines left to cross. I'm so amazed with how well Hannah did, and
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to watch just on the mocap stage, and we actually had people after a few takes leave the set. They're like, I can't watch this anymore, and they just took off. But from a story standpoint, it's so important to show just what the violence does and how it like rips apart this family.
well, then especially a lot of times in video games, you see blatant violence, but when you personify it and you put it on a face, especially that young face, and you see the devastation that just one life lost can do. And it's just, I mean, this was such a hard day. It was such a hard day for both of us. I mean, it was exhausting for her. It was exhausting for me.
So the opening credits, the thing with the opening, initially we didn't want to do opening credits, didn't even have the idea for this, but the jump felt too sudden to go from Sarah dying to then 20 years later.
And making up.
We found that when people watch it in succession, they're not paying attention when we start introducing Tess in the world because they're still recovering from Sarah dying. So we're like, okay, well, let's have this opening sequence that can kind of help bridge the gap. And just had the idea of just seeing this time-lapse video of fungus growing, because so much of the disease and the outbreak is based on this cordyceps fungus that's spread through spores. So we contacted a group at Sony San Diego who did this whole opening sequence for us, and they actually got these fungus fungal kits where they grew fungus like in their bathrooms and filmed this over like days to produce this thing.
So everything you're seeing is actually it's real. It's not CG. It's not.
It's all
organic.
yeah, it's all, except for the spores at the end, which are CG. Everything is real. This whole journey is like a dreamlike state, and you constantly see people waking up, and you see this multiple time with Joel, and it's as if he's like remembering the past. He's always having these bad dreams throughout the game.
That was always something that we had to keep in mind when we did this scene, because we shot this before we shot Sarah dying scene. So it's kind of like we knew that those were going to be in one way or another kind of butted up against each other. But this is such a great thing. Again, this was in the audition thing that we did when we were trying to find Tess. And when Annie walked in, it was just like, she walked in as Tess. We saw a lot of different people for that. And this was just such a great, because the relationship you see from going from Sarah and Joel to now Joel and Tess, it's just, I don't know, you see everything, like the house that he was in before was nicer. He looked nicer, and it's not just the years have passed, but those years that have passed haven't
This
been
also
kind.
gets into something interesting for me as a writer, which is you have a certain notion of characters or how you want the structure to be, and then once it's interpreted through actors like Troy, it changes. Like I've always imagined this as Joel doesn't really care for Tess. He's completely shut down, and Troy treated it differently, which is I think he really cares for Tess, and even though he might not show it, and we just kind of embraced that. And you kind of see that later when Tess gets infected. That wasn't how the scene was originally envisioned, that Joel has such a reaction, but it became a lot more interesting to own that.
Well, and also how much this relationship changed over, I mean, time and different writing iterations and just conversations that we had about this. Even, within the last month or so, we've had conversations about this. It's like, what is their relationship? Because we never define it. I think anybody else would have put it on the nose, they're lovers or whatever. There was one note that you gave, it's like, for one specific take, and it said, let's just assume that there was a fight last night over what, we don't know. This is that moment afterwards. So it was like this awkward tension between the two of us. But there's no like loving embrace, there's no kiss that Joel and Tess have. It's just such an interesting relationship.
And the challenge was to try to, how much can we convey just through nonverbal interaction?
Right.
Our first torture scene.
And it's with the lovely Robin Atkin Downs, which I was just joking and saying that it's not a Naughty Dog game if Robin isn't getting the shit kicked out of him.
He's been in every game since Uncharted 1.
And we just put him through the ringer on this one. Poor guy.
It was important to show just how far Joel has come, from the father you see in the opening sequence to here is a man that is willing to torture someone to just get
But it's
what
so
is essentially
interesting.
money in this world.
Right, but it's interesting because he's like that brutal enforcer. It's kind of like that scene in LA Confidential where he's Russell Crowe. She's running the show. She's the dominating one, and I'm just brought in to be the
She's
muscle.
the brains of the operation.
Yeah, clearly.
Stop!
Quit your squirming.
That's all Robin's expressions too. It's so great. They did such a great job with the facial.
Yeah, it's important to note also, all the facial is hand animated. We don't use any facial mocap. We find that we get better results with our animators.
And it almost becomes one-to-one. And it's just genius. Here it is. Wait for it.
Give me a week.
I might have done that if you hadn't tried to fucking kill me.
Vote of hesitation. It's gonna cost you.
I can't.
We re-edited that. We used to show the break, and actually it was less brutal than when we didn't show it.
When you didn't show it?
Yeah, when it's left to your imagination, it's a lot worse.
Yeah, but just you can see the way that his arm's positioned. But yeah, you're right. This is so revealing, not only about the relationship, but about, again, who Joel has become. To go from a father who just cares about keeping his nose down and keeping the job and playing by the rules, to being a guy who could just literally break some guy's arm over guns. It's just crazy.
Come on. Yeah, fuck those fireflies. Let's go get them.
She loved doing that scene too. Annie loved that. She tried not to smile every time. And I love it's just business as usual. It's back to it. It's like, all right, so now what?
And we're about to meet the very talented Merle Dandridge.
Ah, Merle. Now, here's something interesting about this. Again, going back to the audition, that process. We saw a bunch of different girls, even girls that we had originally seen for Tess, we brought back to see.
They're all really
Marlene.
good.
They're fantastic.
And then Merle came in and just,
And
there was no question.
And I wasn't there for that. And
Ashley can chime in on
Or
this.
no.
Ashley was part of the audition for Merle.
When she came in, it was hands down.
Yeah.
It's like, that's Marlene, come on.
It's funny that all three of us knew like right away that, yeah, she needs to play Marlene.
But you said we ended up setting up a special thing just for her.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you've got to see her. I want you to
Yeah,
see her.
we had callbacks, and she was busy. She couldn't make it. And we had a special day of callbacks just to bring her in because we felt really confident that she could do it.
'Cause I felt like she was the only one who didn't play it all either super tough.
Or street, yeah.
Yeah, she kind of had
Yeah,
the
she
perfect
really straddled that
combination.
line.
It was so great. But we did that first scene in the audition, literally first take, first scene. And she exits. It's at the very end of the game, and she turns around, she exits, and I turned around, look at Neil. I was like, I just mouthed, "Are you kidding me?" It's like,
And I
was
mouthed,
done.
"I told you so."
Yeah, she did such a great job. This is another kind of thing that I think is interesting that's happening in video games, where we see two really strong women characters, female characters that aren't being over-sexualized. They're just strong women.
Here we go. Ellie's introduction.
Yep.
And this stuff is all shot out of sequence. So it's I don't know, maybe you guys can talk about the process of how you get into that state.
I'm trying to remember that. I just really like the fact that the first time you see Ellie, you see her knife first.
Right.
I just think that's
You see that
kind
she's
of
a
awesome.
fighter.
Yeah. I forgot that was the first time that you saw Ellie. That was the first scene. That just from the get-go, she's fighting.
Yeah, but it's not just she's fighting because she really cares for Marlene. That's kind of
Yeah.
the crux of this, is that you see these two characters really care for one another. And I love in such a short time you see between Marlene and Ellie, there's this connection that's so
Right.
important because that has to carry through to the end of the game when Marlene shows up again.
Well, even like just the positioning of the two people. I mean, it's Joel and Tess versus Ellie and Marlene.
And just like, it's so interesting watching, right, Joel here doesn't even make eye contact with her. He doesn't even acknowledge her existence.
Right.
She's not crossing to that part of town. I want Joel to watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's the best
Ellie.
idea.
Our first fight.
Here we go.
Bullshit!
I was close with his brother Tommy. Said if I was ever in a jam, I could rely on him.
Was that before or after he left?
Just reminding the player, like this guy you saw in the beginning, Joel's brother, he's changed too and he's been involved.
Yeah.
Just get hints of,
There's a falling out between the two of them.
And it's just as you go on, you're starting to fill in that 20-year gap.
Just cargo, Joel.
No more talking.
Which is pretty true to your writing too, because I'm like, so what happened here? It's always, what do you think?
What do you think happened there? Because I have no idea.
I don't have the time to write it.
Don't take long. And you, stay close.
For Joel, right, that's a hint. It's like, I don't want to be around this kid,
Right.
right? Because some subconscious part of him knows I could get hurt here.
Is it?
First moment alone.
What does Joel do?
Time for bed.
Takes a nap.
I'm tired.
What are you doing?
Killing time.
I do really like this scene.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
I am sure you will figure that out.
It's a great moment.
It's another one of those moments too where it's like, it just feels like Joel is just always exhausted. Like this world is just bearing down on him.
But I love that moment too, where she points out the watch, where we get to establish that watch that.
Yeah, and that's
Sarah
something
gave
we
me.
didn't have in the beginning. That's actually something we inserted after the fact. Not for this scene, but there's another scene where we have that.
But I also love, like you said, the kind of the juxtaposition between Joel and Ellie, to where Joel's just, like you said, weary and exhausted, and you have this total opposite, almost antithetical thing of like this naivete and this childlike behavior that's wanting to explore. And it
here
shows up in this.
she's talking about having bad dreams, like the idea that they are both carrying this baggage with them, and it's how they first connect.
Look how dark it is. Can't be any worse out there. Can it?
What on earth do the Fireflies want with you?
Hey. Sorry it took so long. Soldiers fucking everywhere. How's Marlene?
What a great moment. He finally addresses her, finally connects on that level, and that moment's interrupted.
Well, it's also the first time kind of Ellie, if you think about it, opens up to him. She's saying, I'm scared, right? That was the subtext of
Yeah,
that question.
that's true.
Go get some guns.
Don't do anything stupid.
Move.
Turn around, on your knees.
It's such an interesting thing that we're like 2 hours into the game and we're still the enemy, if there is one, or just other humans, just other people that are on other sides of the law, but there's no infected, there's no clickers, there's no anything.
Look the other way. We can make this worth your while.
Shut up. Tired of this shit. What's the ETA?
Couple minutes.
I love the attention to detail, the rain falling off their faces. She's the one that strikes up first.
Then it's interesting how Joel instinctively, when a gun is pointed at Ellie, he acts.
Yeah.
Again, there's something subconscious that he feels like he has to protect this girl, even if he doesn't realize it yet.
Here it is.
Jesus Christ. Marlene set us up?
So this is starting to build up that conflict between Joel and Tess.
Yeah.
And this is something we struggled in the story for a long time, is like, how do we motivate this guy that shouldn't really want to do this mission? How do we get him to take on this mission to carry Ellie across the country? And it was through Tess. So if we get Tess to really buy into this thing, and then we, Tess gets infected, then she can convince Joel to take this on. At least initially, at least until we can spend long enough time with Ellie so they can connect.
Yeah.
And then it becomes about something else.
I'll also say, Ashley, when we were doing this, the way that you conveyed fear, because that's a very scary situation that you're in, because you felt like your back was against the wall.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is where we kind of show you the difference between Joel and Tess.
Yeah, because you're starting to see Tess really kind of buy into this, and you see some hope.
Well, the thing I like about your performance here is you really get the sense of the conversation she's had with Marlene and the struggles she's been going through the past 3 weeks.
She said that they have their own little quarantine zone with doctors there still trying to find a cure.
It's where you see just deep inside how much Tess is desperate for any kind of redemption.
Whatever happened to me is that...
Remember, Ashley, we were talking about the scene and the idea that Ellie's not sure she believes in this thing. She feels this whole thing is insane and ridiculous.
I remember that.
I believe the direction I gave you was like, imagine you're giving yourself a compliment.
Yeah. If you as a person in real life found out you were the cure for mankind.
I'm kind of awesome.
Yeah, you
apparently,
would.
so
And
I am the
especially
Messiah.
in that 3 weeks, you wouldn't, it'd be hard to own that.
All right. Now watch your step as you're going out, because it's going to be a little...
Little brat.
I love the dynamics of this scene where it's like, Tess has this secret, right? She's bitten, she's not telling Joel or anybody yet. Joel here for the first, again, he's connected, he can't help it.
Oh, is that everything you hope
It's the first time he's like saying something semi-nice to Ellie.
But there's still this layer of cynicism behind it.
Can't deny that view.
Come on, this way.
He gets taken away by that childlike wonder. And this is something we added after the fact, the watch. The watch wasn't, we didn't have the watch at the time.
Yeah.
And Joel was just crossing his arms, and I asked the animator to like, oh, could you just flip his wrist and have him look at the watch?
Yeah.
This moment is reminding him of Sarah.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that. It's almost a warning from Tess to Joel, like kind of like last words.
It's like this determination, and you're not sure why. What's
Yeah.
different now, Tess?
No. No, no, no.
Tess's desperation.
What happens now?
I love and it totally comes across without many words or anything, just through the expressions on Joel's face, which is, I've put up with this long enough.
Right.
This is over. I've indulged you enough,
Where's
Tess.
this lab of theirs?
Oh, she never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
What are we doing here? This is
Yeah.
not...
That calm, pacifying, trying to talk some sense into you.
I know that you are smarter than this.
Really?
Right.
Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long
I
time.
love the fact that her character, she knows she's going to die any minute, but she's still holding on to so much hope.
Yeah.
I'm not
That, well, she's different.
going anywhere.
Right.
Look at her bite. The world could still change.
And it's kind of this theme that, like, this idea of, I've done all this crappy things, but it's all okay if I could do this one thing right.
Right.
And then that kind of moves over to Ellie. And we see that theme later when Ellie, like, talks about it can't be for nothing.
I got to point this out. Everybody else, because this was a part of the audition scene too, everyone else did that "don't touch me." They screamed it out. And I love the way she did that, where it was like that first, "don't touch me." And it's
Yeah.
just that realization. And I love the fact that Ellie's the one that figures it out, not Joel.
Oh, Christ.
And again, the back and forth Annie's doing between this freaking badass to such vulnerability and constantly jumping back and forth. And she brought that every take. We're all like, because every take she's like full on crying by the end of it.
She's incredible. You're right. She's such a badass, but she was so vulnerable at the same time. It's just such a,
Shows
Hard
two
thing to
sides of the
play.
same strength too.
God, I'm such an Annie fan.
You have to feel some sort of obligation to me, so you get her to Tommy's.
I remember you coming out of a take and Troy's like, look at me, he's like, you don't understand. You're not right there staring into her eyes.
I can buy you some time, but you have to run.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
There's no way that...
This moment where like Joel's like in denial, is like, there's something I could do. Not even understanding, like, she's gone. She's already gone. There's nothing he could do right now.
And also she is just laser-eyed on Joel doing that, even though she's talking to Ellie.
No, just go!
Tess has to snap him out of it. It's like, you know that you have to do it.
Ellie.
And I believe this is the first time Joel refers to Ellie by her name. I don't think anywhere else in the game he does that. Beforehand. And again, it was important to stay. We stay with Tess, just showing. Here's her emotions finally coming through when Joel is gone. I like how I don't remember if we talked about this, but Ellie has just this, clearly a problem with authority, where somebody's telling her what to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think that also, I have a problem with authority. So that came out a little bit in Ellie.
Tess. I don't even know.
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess.
Yeah, that's so. Joel knows what he needs to do to survive, which is just let go. Needs to let go fast of these things, or they will kill you.
Don't tell anybody about your condition. They
That's
think you're
great.
crazy little
I love that he refers to
And lastly, you do
that as her
Condition.
what I say.
He can barely acknowledge. Just
We're
he's still
trying to search for the term for it. You being the whole cure for humanity thing.
Good.
I love that he
Close
says good,
enough.
but the subtext is clearly like, all right, good enough.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna get out of this kid.
Good chance he could get us a car.
Okay.
Let's get a move on.
Hey, it's Bill.
Lovely Earl Brown.
Whoop whoop.
I remember you were kind of geeking out when you auditioned with him.
I was. We saw like a lot of people for Bill, and there was a lot of like stars that came in. I was really surprised. Like, but then when he walked in, I was like, holy crap, it's Dan Dougherty from Deadwood.
He's amazing to work with. I've worked with him before a while ago, and I just love working with him.
You actually hit him in this scene in the face.
That's right.
I did.
Right there, and we kept it. And he kept going, what a trooper.
That's one of my favorite things, is when he goes, am I
Yeah.
dead?
He was sick that day.
Yeah.
He was like getting over a cold.
I did hit him, and I felt so bad because it was a complete accident. I think I didn't realize my swing was going a
That
lot
was
faster
the
than I thought it
first
was.
of many people that you hit during the shoot of this project.
Yeah.
Getting
It
into
happens.
character. Well, I also love this business that he's doing here too. That was something that he completely made up. He's like, working on the sword, and
Listen to me, you little
I
shit.
love this.
I need you to shut up.
Again, I love this moment, this paternal thing. Like, just shut up, kid. I need to handle this.
He's always a dad.
Actually, Bill, they are. Well, it don't matter because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right.
it gives in.
And I love just taking that time, take that pause.
All right. It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
And it's like opening handcuffs, but again, I see it as this almost tender moment between Joel and
Stay
Ellie.
right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Another great Ellie line. Smart ass.
Remember the rehearsal for all these scenes? So we would shoot these things in chunks. So we'd bring like Earl in and Ashley and Troy and just shoot we're gonna shoot the whole Bill sequence. And talking to Bill, and he's about to talk about a partner that he's had. We've talked, there was a question that brought up, is like, what kind of partner is this? And Earl asked, is Bill gay? And I said, well, he could be. I mean, it's really up to you.
Well, no, you gave the standard response of,
What do you think? Because I really want him to own it. I thought he was when I wrote the part, but I really wanted the actor to own it, and he did. I mean, he made that decision to make him a gay character. And again, it's not something we ever explicitly say, except for the magazine that Ellie steals.
Right. But again, instead of making that a point and something, it's just a cute little piece of exposition.
Let me tell you a story.
Well, and from a narrative structural standpoint, what Bill is there to show is, here's what happens when you survive on your own in this world. It's like you're alone and miserable and a little bit crazy, and it's what could happen to Joel if he keeps going down this path of just doing whatever he takes to survive.
So you know what I did? Wisen the fuck up.
And also, Bill is there to kind of give Joel the warning, is like, you go down this world, you care for people, you will get hurt.
Hey! What'd I say to you when we walked down the steps?
And that's where Ellie has stolen a bunch of Bill's stuff.
I love that flips him off.
God damn it. You keep babysitting long enough and eventually...
I love that line of fixing the stupid pile. Because I feel like that's so something a kid would say when you're trying to cover, when you're it's
Right.
nothing specific.
I was just stealing all your stuff.
Fix the pencils over here.
Oh, this is the one where we abused Troy. And I was like, you have to fly face first into the ground. And he's like, but I should roll. No, fly face first into the ground.
It was like, well, if I roll this way, then actually, they're like, it looks too ninja when you can't do it. So I literally just had to eat shit time after time again. It's like seeing stars. It was great.
Please tell me you're done!
Yeah, you guys are acting against nothing. There's nothing there.
Fucking empty. Bill, we're
And something we always had to remember was bring the tension back.
anywhere but here. The hallways, come on.
Left to that, he closes a glass door like that's going to do much.
Yeah, right?
So that worked out well.
Oh, the thing I love here is that, that Bill constantly brings up Tess, not knowing that
Right.
Tess is dead because Joel doesn't want to talk about it.
Right.
But here it gets to Joel. And this is something that you guys actually just improvised. That wasn't in the script, this big fight that happens here. It was much more low-key in the script.
Yeah, once he brings up Tess, that was something we kind of keyed in on.
Jesus. What, you know this guy or something?
Frank,
Who the hell's Frank?
he was my partner.
They're both kind of lying to each other. If you think about the previous scene, right? He mentioned this partner, but almost like, I didn't care about him, I let him go, and you realize that's not the truth at all. He
Right.
really cared for this guy, and this guy probably left him.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got
I love how clinical he is about this.
here.
With that look on his face says everything.
Well, that turn too that Earl did, with he realizes Joel is looking at him and he's being vulnerable right now, and he puts the mask back on.
Yeah.
And I remember like seeing that moment from Earl, I was like, Yeah, we cast the right guy.
Well, fuck him.
And then that turn right there. Which again is kind of what purpose Bill serves in the story, is to show that having those moments of emotion, there's nothing he feels, there's nothing but weakness.
Get out. Get out.
I love it.
That relationship
out.
between the two of you
I love
was so
it.
good. That's what was great about the cast, is constantly having to switch from these really serious, dramatic vulnerabilities to playing tough, right? Because that's what you kind of have to do in this world, is let your humanity come out, but then learn when to shut that off to survive. And also, you're seeing, it's very subtle here, but you're starting to see this change in Joel, where he's given Ellie more and more responsibility. He's trusting her. Instead of just saying, stay out of my way, he's like, I need your help.
This is a good point that, in case people weren't aware of the process. I mean, everyone at this stage, we had such great sets, even though it's kind of rudimentary, but they actually built a truck for us, and we used that truck so many times. But I think this was the last scene that we shot with Earl.
Yeah, and rehearsal, I would try to give you guys as much of concept art and videos that we had, so you can imagine the space, because you have nothing there to act off of, except each other.
That's right.
You guys have each other.
It's true.
And I love this exchange between Bill and Joel too, because it's Joel trying to kind of apologize for an awkward situation and trying to show some sensitivity to him, and Bill just completely glosses over it. And
the thing with Joel that I kind of admire, like, he can't come up with the right words. He can never come up with the right words. I was like, it's like a half sentence. He's like, so, yeah.
And Bill kind of finishes that for him, but it's
which really helps my writing. This theme comes in here because to show Joel's now alone with Ellie, but the relationship has changed. This is starting to become that theme we heard in the beginning with Sarah. Now we're getting into the first scene we ever shot, and this is your guys' edition right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the first audition scene when I came in, when I read for you guys, along with another scene that I don't know if it's in the game or it
it's not in the
probably
game.
changed a little
It's
bit.
like the scene with the Walkman.
Yeah, the scene with the Walkman.
There's a scene. There was the scene kind of like it, but it's pretty different.
Back at Bill's. I mean, all this stuff was just lying there.
What else did you get?
Well, and I especially love this because, especially at this point, we had no idea who Bill really was.
That is actually before my...
How many times did we come back to this scene? Like at least 3 times.
Yeah, at least 3 times. I love what she says. I was like, hey, you know who this is? And the different versions of songs that we ran through with this too is great.
Oh. I'm sure your friend will be missing this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy on the cover is John Sweeney, one of our concept artists.
That's awesome.
How the hell would he even want
Is the centerfold also his penis?
We should have that unlockable. You could see what she's looking at.
Yeah. Get your subscription to Bearskin Magazine today.
I'm just fucking with you.
And the awkwardness of that moment.
But it's also such a great moment of levity between the two of them.
I don't know, that's kind of a way of her complimenting him or trying to bond with him.
Yeah.
And it's something I was very conscious of when writing this stuff. It was like, this is making me uncomfortable here on the page. I have to leave it as is.
Yeah. That's your litmus test.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
I love that. Not even tired. Cut to passed out. This is the first scene, because it was part of that reveal trailer. It's the first scene that I ever saw put together fully, and I was just absolutely blown away how good it looked. It was the first time I'd actually seen, real flesh and bone put on Joel and Ellie.
And the yawn we added after the fact.
I remember that.
Because we were like, she doesn't have a yawn. She should have a yawn when she wakes up. And then you were yawning on the set, and we're all yawning because it's contagious.
I know, just watching that, I just yawned. I tried to be quiet about it.
I love that this moment of silence and kind of peacefulness is broken up by this.
So Joel knows this trick.
What about the guy?
He knows it because he's done this before.
Right. Poor John Bentley. And I love, again, how that music is playing not as a score, but coming from the car. It's just great.
I believe that was Ruben that we hit and
Yeah,
had
that
him
was
fly,
Ruben.
fly off the truck like that. This was also the first really dramatic scene we shot, and it became kind of the touchstone for how the characters should look when they're
I feel sick.
really pushed.
It's so interesting when she's, you know, again, it's this moment of vulnerability when she says, I feel sick, and Joel's,
Glad I didn't, right?
again, being very didactic and pushing her away.
Goddamn kid.
She stands up for herself. This is the first time she stood up for herself.
How about, hey, Ellie, I know it wasn't easy, but it was either him or me.
And I love that line,
For saving my ass.
you know, it's either him or me.
Anything like that
Come
for
back
me,
to that.
Joel?
And he can't do it. He can't admit that she saved his life.
Lead the way.
So this is, in the story, the first time Joel really is trusting Ellie and seeing her as pretty much an equal to him. He has to rely on her to survive in this world.
This is
Survive
one of the
this journey.
first cinematics that we saw too, and we just,
Yeah.
it's still one of our favorites. We keep coming back to and laughing because I love this exchange between the two of
What
them.
about me?
You stay here.
This is so stupid. We'd have more of a fucking chance if you let me help.
I am. You seem to know your way around a gun. You reckon you can handle that?
Well, I sort of shot a rifle before.
He's like, shit, rats, that's it? Fuck.
BBs.
That line. Oh shit! Here's what we gotta work with.
We usually avoid these kind of cameras that rotate around something that are trying to do too much, but it felt like this moment kind of needed it.
Yeah, I love
It's
it.
a weird parent-kid moment.
Yeah.
As soon as you fire,
But he's teaching her how to shoot to
we're gonna
kill.
Get another round in there quick. Listen to me. If I get into trouble,
There's a really nice,
every
when I watched like Ellie's performance, this balance between she's trying to be a hard ass, but you could see in her eyes she's kind of terrified of the situation.
Yeah.
But even in this, there's almost a little bit of excitement there too. Either whether it's about the reality of her killing isn't real, or if it's just I have an opportunity to make Joel proud.
Opening up, opening up.
You're welcome.
Such an interesting look on your face here, because it's almost like I did good, but then you feel horrified by it. So interesting.
It's like, even though Ellie's used to killing, used to seeing this stuff in this world, it was still important to show this is having an effect on her.
Right.
And you're going to see that kind of carry throughout the game.
Well, it also kind of carries over into this moment as well, too, because I realized what I just put her through. I love the way that, you know, we took that away from her. It's like almost gingerly. It's like, give me that.
It's like, you can't really compliment it because...
Right. You
it's
did
just what
good.
you
Yeah,
have-
there's no pat on the back.
about something
But then I turn around and I give her this, and it's like
a little more
you
yours.
said, there's a sadness to it.
Yeah. It's sad that in this world, these are the things that you have to bond over. Like, here's your gun.
And that's the reward.
Yeah.
But that knot of understanding is great.
Brandon and Najee.
There you go.
Yep.
Brandon, I think, had the hardest audition of anyone.
no kidding.
Because I literally almost took off his head. Not in this scene, not punching him. That fortunately was done by Ruben Langdon, who can punch way better than I can.
Leave him alone.
And Najee, too, when he came in red for Sam, that had that...
It's all right. They're not the bad guys. Lower the...
Just this kid that's kind of terrified to live in this world.
Yeah.
Man, you hit hard.
Yeah, well, I was trying to kill you.
And these two characters are really showing... They're kind of a mirror of Joel and Ellie's relationship.
If you haven't noticed, they don't keep kids.
And it's another warning for Joel, like this whole arc for Henry and Sam of what's going to happen if you stick with this girl. You're going to go through what these two characters are going to eventually end up.
I do like that Sam is a character that
Name was Joel.
seems genuinely scared, because a lot of the other characters
We don't know that.
can tend to be a little bit more badassy,
Right.
and he's just he's young and he's scared. And I
Yes.
love that.
To me, he also comes across very sullen. Like
Yeah.
there's like just a little glimmer of hope and joy, but it's almost like anytime there is a moment of that, then Henry kind of takes that away from
It
him.
also gives Ellie an opportunity to play a mentor of sorts for him.
Not too far from
Yeah.
here. Be safer if we chat there.
All right, take us there.
Welcome to my office.
One thing that I think made Brandon such a great choice for this and the right choice for this is this scene about how much he owned it and the pride that he had in showing off this wonderful camp that they had made for themselves and kind of like trying to impress Joel, and Joel just very nonplussed about the whole thing. He's like, oh, good for you. Yeah, you've done this.
And relax. We're safe.
Well, the interesting thing, the way I read it is like Joel is impressed, but he's not. He's trying not to show it. He's trying to still test this kid. But there's a lot of he sees himself in Henry.
Yeah. Very, very much so. And this is, I remember we going back and forth about this because
Oh yeah, because layout changed. Because initially they were going to go through the camp at night, and then we had to change the layout, so we had to go in and re-record these lines.
Well, and there's something on the reverse that it doesn't really matter, but when we shot this, the entire time that he was laying out this plan, I was just looking at him because I was like, I really care about your plan, kid. I care more about you. It's kind of like poker. You don't play the cards, you play the man.
Again, one of those fleeting moments where kids can be kids.
She doesn't seem bothered by all this.
Such a powerful line. And Joel completely just dismisses it. You guys were actually doing that in the background while we were doing this scene. This was so great. It wasn't like shot separately.
I know, we were just fooling around. You guys like, shut up.
It just seems like there's a lot of people putting their stock on the Fireflies these days.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that.
So you don't know.
I love this standoff, even though it's a sit-off almost between the two of them, where Joel's just pushing him for information just to see where this kid's grounded.
Easy.
That nod.
Yeah, the threat being so subtle, but it's there.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, again, that Brandon did with this that everybody else didn't do. They kind of really got in Joel's face, and he didn't. He didn't posture himself that much. It was just like, I'll take care of mine, you take care of yours. And also that he doesn't correct him about your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Joel doesn't correct him. He's not, she's not my daughter.
You and your girl, you want to join us? It goes down tonight.
I guess we best rest up then.
And I guess that's the most Joel's going to give him.
Yeah. That's all Henry needs. Joel sleeping again. These were my favorite scenes where I just got to sleep.
No, we're going to be moving fast, okay?
And the idea of these two pairs that are coming together.
God, they were such great brothers. Brandon and Najee did such a great job together.
How many bullets do you have left?
I just remember it was funny because jumping off of this bridge, there's just
A rope?
a line of tape, and then you have to like jump off of it.
Because we were both stepping over it at first. They're like, no, this is like 50 feet down.
I was like, so we got to do a whole thing.
It looks ridiculous what we're doing. It's like, with our arms above our head.
I know.
And this part where you're in the water, we had you on a cart.
That's right. And they
we
were like
just pushed
wheeling
you
around.
across
Yeah.
mocap stage.
It was actually pretty violent being on that.
It was.
It's pretty scary. This was part of the audition scene that Brandon did that really just kind of helped us realize we had the right Henry.
He's awake.
Hey, you.
Back to the salesman. It's like, hey, buddy, everything's okay.
I
Everything's
know.
all right.
I really like that about his character, that he's kind of a salesman.
You know, Sam's the one who spotted you. You guys are taking quite a bit of water. What's wrong? Henry! Get back, son! Hey. He's pissed, but he's not gonna do anything.
You sure about that? Stop!
He's confident. He knows he can calm you down, but he needs Sam to stay out of the way.
Right, just in case.
Yeah.
Chance of making it, and you did. But coming back for you meant putting him at risk. Stay back.
I think there's already the change there. Joel knows it's true.
Yeah.
Joel wouldn't have come back for him.
I saved you.
And even when we were shooting this too, I mean, that's you really get into that moment, and every time that I felt that hand on my shoulder, it's almost like that Hulk moment where you realize, oh, I felt bad for letting you see that part of me, because so far I really haven't, in these moments, let that demon out. I've done what I've had to do, but this is just cold-blooded murder I'm about to do.
The thing with Henry, which Brandon really brought to it, which is making light of everything for Sam. Everything is done for Sam.
Right.
I think he really is intimidated. He is scared in the situation, but he's making light of it so Sam isn't as scared as he is.
Because the second that Sam sees that he's scared, innocently scared. Silver lining kid.
You're gonna be really happy you didn't kill me.
This is the longest
Short
cinematic
scene
in the game. I had to fit that in there. Quit this place from this, since we had it in the first trailer.
I can't quit you.
I remember when we first, the very, very beginning of this, when we did the first table read through this and everything, and we talked about, I asked if there was going to be a moment of just a light shining through in this darkness, and you talked about this scene, and at that point it was just really kind of just real easy brush strokes of what it was going to be, and it really came into fruition and became this
Well, all the characters here have their guard down. It's kind of unique, because usually somebody's lying or somebody's hiding something.
Right.
And here's like, everybody has their guard down.
They're just talking about motorcycles.
You two deserve a little privacy.
And you were really giving too on this. We spent a lot of time on this, and there was this one scene where you just kind of let me ramble about, you know, to where we really feel like we're coming midway into a conversation. I don't remember what was said, but it was just this cool moment.
But you went more into the details of like with Tommy and where you went and the States and all that stuff. I think that really helped kind of make this, the following takes much more natural.
Right, without all the rest of that stuff, the preamble being there. But I love the turn that he gives right here. It's like the kids have gone to bed now, and we can just talk like adults.
Worst part about it all.
Animation and lighting, right? If you don't capture these looks in the eyes, this scene doesn't work.
Right. The thing that I love about this is that he's set up a little office for himself, kind of like what Henry did. You know, it's this, I'm being official, trying to be a grown-up. But he's still a kid, and we see it in this moment.
I really enjoyed working with Brandon and Najee. Just having them on set was so much fun. They're such
Najee
great
especially,
dudes.
like
Najee's
a trip.
hilarious.
we're doing this crazy scene, and we like cut, and then he's like just starting dancing or
Yeah.
singing whatever, you know, YouTube hot song at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, song bombing us all day.
They were so much fun. I just adore them too.
Is everything all right?
You got an opportunity to put so much of you into Ellie.
That's just because I can't write, so I just listen to Ashley talk, and then like, oh, that's a good line.
Have a good night.
That's giving me way too much credit.
How is it that you're never scared?
It's
Who
like
says that I'm not?
putting up the defense, making joke of it, as Ellie does.
Yeah.
And then seeing when she needs to, because that's the only way she's going to cheer him up. She's going to open up to him.
And also, she kind of throws out that bone, like, you know, scorpions are pretty creepy. That's not what I want to talk about.
Being by myself.
Which again, all this stuff she's saying here plays into what happens later when she finds out Joel's trying to give her up, giving her away to Tommy.
Yeah.
Those things out there. What if the
And it's
people
kind of the
who
same
live
thing we're seeing with Tess,
What if they're trapped
to
in
where
your
she
body and
was,
control their body?
again, she knows what's going on, he knows what's going on, but it's looking externally for some kind of either comfort or hope or answer or something.
First of all, we're a team now.
And then they just always come up empty.
Second,
I guess one thing I'm just thinking about now, which is all the stuff Sam is going through because he's bitten,
is not
is probably the stuff Ellie went through when she was first bitten, because she thought she was going to turn.
He says that they've moved
And it
on,
just happens that
that
she
they
was
were
immune. But
family.
so that's what she kind of,
Do you think that's true?
all these realizations she's had.
I go back and forth. I mean, I'd like to believe it.
That's a powerful thing for essentially
It's kind of
kid to
sad because
say.
that's not what Sam wants to hear. He
Right.
wants to
Yeah.
hear that it's all going to be all right.
Right.
But she doesn't realize that's what
No,
he
death is terrible. It's a horrible, painful process, and you're all alone, you know?
I almost forgot. There. If he doesn't know about it, he can't take it away. All right.
This did make me sad because,
I'll see you tomorrow.
you know, he spent that whole night alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, Henry didn't go back in there.
I let him sleep in, just like,
Yeah, let him sleep in.
oh.
And that was the last conversation he had. And that always made me so sad after I read that, because I was like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And what would have happened if Henry had gone in there? I mean, the fact that Henry wasn't there, I mean, plays into, you know, the culmination of this scene where he's just racked with guilt.
I mean, one thing we were very conscious of when putting the story together is we would have these really kind of dramatic moments that change the characters significantly, and then we would cut to some more time in the future.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to see right afterwards what happened to it, and then you get hints of how this affected the relationship, which is what you get into the next gameplay sequence. And this whole thing is, it's a huge change in Joel here, because now he sees, this is what's going to happen to me. The same thing that's happening to Henry right now is what would happen to me if I'm going to keep going and let Ellie get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, after this moment, he makes the choice, like, I need to give her to Tommy.
Oh my God.
Sam?
Oh no.
I have no idea what that would do to a person to actually see that, to have to do that.
Yeah, and I remember talking with Brandon about this when he's saying it's all your fault. He's not talking to Joel, he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Okay, easy.
Yeah, the thing that's cool with this piece, Gustavo's music, is that you're carrying that weight. You're carrying the weight of that emotion of everything just happened onto the next scene, which even though they might not be thinking about Henry and Sam right this moment, but it's just that feeling is lingering going forward.
I own that shirt.
I'm pretty
I still
sure
think we should sell off our mocap suits for charity.
Unwashed.
Jeffrey Pierce,
Do as the lady says.
Ashley Scott. Sorry, Ashley Hart.
Oh, yes.
Ashley Hart. She was married.
Oh, we didn't know the place was occupied. We're just trying to make our way through.
Through to where?
They're all right.
But you know these people?
I know him. He's my
The
goddamn
chemistry was so good between
The two of
you
them.
and Jeffrey.
It was amazing how well, and I mean, Jeffrey's just a few years older than me, but it was interesting playing the older brother to him. And yeah, we felt like brothers immediately. It was crazy.
Oh, well, Jeffrey came, I mean, we almost cast Jeffrey
Yeah.
as Joel. And then once, like, months later, we needed to cast Tommy. I was like, oh,
Well.
what's Jeffrey Pierce doing? That's
Thanks for not blowing my head off.
Would have been embarrassing, considering you're my brother-in-law.
And Ashley Scott, she came really close to being cast as Tess. And
Yeah.
when we needed Maria, I was like, oh,
We
Ashley
got the
Scott.
perfect person.
There were no additions for these roles.
I love this awkward setup of this is how he meets his sister-in-law. How he meets Jeffrey's, you know, or Tommy's wife.
Story.
Why don't we bring him inside?
And you just get to see here now how Ellie's starting to become more secretive.
Well, also, it's
and
like
guarded.
the way they're standing and everything. It's like Ellie's kind of alone now. Like now it's like Joel is with Tommy and
There's no one familiar with Ellie.
It's quite the crew you got here.
They're good men. This place gives them a second
the
chance.
theme of redemption.
Gives us all a second chance. So why'd you leave Boston?
We went through this so many times.
I've been on quite the adventure.
And each one of them I thought was great in its own little version. It was just kind of like trying to pick the right one. But this is where you get to see.
Well, Joel's putting up a front here. I mean, he's trying to.
He's pitching his little
Yeah.
brother. And it's so interesting to see them slip how they're two different men, but they instantly go back into those roles that they were before.
And just by the behavior here, you get hints of what happened in those 20 years.
Right.
How dark things went.
Why bring her here? Supposed to deliver to the fire.
Like they're playing nice.
Right, they were happy to see each other, but now it's like,
It's
oh,
right
right,
underneath the
you
surface.
haven't changed.
You know where they are. Now, I'm not asking for.
And that's so true to life. Like, especially with brothers, you go back to that. I push these buttons and you do this.
This isn't for me, Tommy. This is for your damn cause.
My cause is my family.
And I loved, what Jeffrey was doing posture-wise,
Jesus, boy.
putting Joel on the offensive.
And now he's just like insulting everybody here and insulting his wife.
Tommy, I need this.
Again, Joel just expects. I tell my little brother to do something, he needs to do it.
Right.
But I ain't taking that
Which
girl
is
off.
totally based on my brother.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh?
Repay you.
For all those goddamn years I took care of us.
Took care. That's what you call it? I got nothing but nightmares from those years.
You survived because of me.
It wasn't worth it.
Tommy here, Tommy and Maria shows that even in this world is horrible, you could find peace in it.
Right.
You could build a community. You don't have to resort to these things that Joel has.
That line was a great thing that Jeffrey improv'd on. Put your hands on me again. It's a good Southern phrase.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Joel. Oh man, they were coming in from every direction. Then Maria was like, "We gotta run."
That's where you see Tommy realizes for the first time that Joel really cares for this girl. This isn't just a job. And that's where he has that change, and he's like, "Oh crap,
I need to talk to you.
this is why he's asking me to do this."
Absolutely not. You tell him to go find somebody else.
And again, it's just such a real moment between a married couple. It's like
What's that all about?
honor and doing something for selfishness and everything else that doesn't play in this world anymore. Those are archaic ideals.
Tell you where the lab is?
I don't want you to go out there because you're going to get killed, and we don't owe him anything. Because I'm sure all she knows is the 20-year-old Joel, 20-year-old version of Joel. Why would you risk your life for that guy? You hate him, essentially.
One fuck up and then I turn into one of those widows, okay?
And for Ellie, it's important to show that she could just read Joel. She has this bullshit detector that just by the way he's answering her questions, she understands exactly what he asked Tommy to do.
Maria.
Here we go.
Love this moment. Here we go.
If anything at all happens to him, it's on you.
The posture and everything. He knows he's in the wrong. He knows he can't ask Tommy to do this.
Yeah.
She's thankful,
Yeah, I know.
I'll take that girl of yours to the Fireflies. You don't have to worry about it.
He really cares for you.
It's best this way.
There's so much more behind it, though, than just care. It's Tommy showing that he's the bigger man, that he's the better man. He's allowing his brother to be shallow and
Well,
selfish.
he's I think he knows what his brother's been through. And he knows why he can't go through that again.
Which way?
Come on.
This is probably my favorite scene.
What a long day this was.
About boys, movies, deciding which.
I honestly think this is one of the best scenes that you wrote, Neil,
It's bizarre.
Get up.
because it says so much about this world,
I
and
say no.
especially Ellie, where she's at, and realizing how different and how much of a chasm there is between this world and that.
I agree.
Goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want?
I think I really like about this scene is that
Rid of me the whole time.
they're both kind of, I guess, being selfish in a way. And yet it's coming from a place because they really care about each other. Like they don't understand that they both have been through horrible things. And they each think what they've been through has been worse.
That I'm gonna end up like Sam.
I love that she calls him out on that. What are you so afraid
Take
of?
care of
How
myself.
many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
And it's like the stakes are high and it's like, okay, well, then I'm going to drop this bomb. I'm not her.
Mighty thin ice here.
It's like, how many years has it probably been for Joel since he even like
Don't bring
thought
up
about
that
it,
name.
mentioned it?
You have no idea what loss is.
I think Joel's thought of that name every day, but I don't think he's heard it said.
Has either died or
That shove that you gave that was nowhere in the script.
fucking except for you.
I think that came out of frustration, definitely, because when we had come back and we couldn't find it, and I wasn't necessarily frustrated with you. I was frustrated with us in the scene. And I was like, oh, fuck.
It's so cold of Joel to do this. And I've had people on the team ask me to remove this part, that he's being too cold. And I'm like, no, it's like, because she's being so vulnerable and he's having these feelings, he's trying to shut it down. That's why he's being so cold. It was so important for me to keep that in there.
When he says, "You're not my daughter," it's almost an insult.
Yeah. And it's kind of the opposite of what he's feeling.
This scene was such a great opportunity to show even just like all these mini arcs with characters. You know, we don't have a lot of time, and we're not gonna. We can only tell Joel and Ellie's story. We can't go into such detail with Bill and Tommy and Tess and Marlene. But you get this great resolution between these brothers because you get the full arc of it in just a short amount of time.
It's like the way I approached it is the seed has been planted. Like when she says, "I'll just be more scared," that Joel just needs time. And in time, he will change his mind because he doesn't want any, deep down, he doesn't want anything that will hurt Ellie or. So over there, the idea is just this little horse riding montages. That change is brewing. And Gustavo's music doesn't hurt.
What's so great about how this plays out is there's really nothing happening but just this passage of time.
That used to be a level that you played through. And just during production cuts, we changed it. So it actually worked out better. It just became this idyllic idea that you never fully reach. You just see it from the outside.
Where is this lab of theirs? It's all the way out, University of Eastern Colorado.
Pointing out this moment that there was probably a time when these two used to watch college football together, you know, and calling out. It's like, "Hey, go Bighorns," you know. For our college that we made up. I want one of their T-shirts so bad, University East Colorado, because Colorado is such a big state.
I don't want her coming after me.
Sorry for stealing your horse.
Come back to town. Let's discuss it at least.
You know me, my mind's all made up.
University, Eastern Colorado. How do I find this lab? It's in the science building. Looks like a giant mirror. You can't miss it.
And the idea of offering Joel a place of refuge, a place of redemption.
Well, and originally we had some, I think there was a line that I threw in there, something that was like maybe someday or something. It was just too on the nose. And we ended up saying we don't need that.
Yeah.
It just needs to be
the look is enough.
Well, and the offer to me is enough.
Mm-hmm. We're about to hear Steve Bloom.
Lovely Steve. Silk-throated Steve Bloom.
You're looking for the Fireflies. They've all left.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm dead. Or I will be soon. Got me
What a macabre scene, though. I love that Ellie's just kind of thumbing through things.
She's pretty frustrated with not having found the Fireflies, not knowing where to go.
Man, I love Steve Bloom's voice. He makes me want to clear my throat.
Trying to save the world.
It's mean.
Good luck with that.
Do you know where that is?
I know the city.
Is it far?
Again, this is where we really start kind of getting the sense of how Joel and Ellie are just chasing their tail. There's, chasing a phantom.
Get down.
Oh.
For me, is what I wanted from this is not to overplay it, not to like have Ellie cry or scream or.
Shit, Joel.
There's probably a lot of panic that happened between this moment and the next.
Well, and what a great line too. You got to tell me what to do. When almost the entire game she said, "Don't tell me what to do."
And here is where we've been lying to everybody when we've been saying you don't play as Ellie.
That's right.
Yeah.
Asked point blank, do you play as Ellie?
No.
I know.
In this moment, a lot of this project and the story has been constructed around this moment, which is where the roles flip, where now it's Ellie that has to protect Joel and essentially bring him back to life.
Bye-bye, Bunny.
It's a pretty cool reveal, too. To pan up. And there's Ellie as the hunter.
What we wanted here is also is like, you don't know exactly what happened to Joel, what's the state, how much time has passed.
Poor buddy.
But the way that she's doing that, you can see that she's been doing this for a while.
You'll just startle it.
Remember how tired your arms got holding that bow stretched?
That bow, it was so heavy. And I remember that I was shaking and I was like, hey guys, this is really heavy.
There's David. Nolan North.
Nolan North, ladies and gentlemen.
Ruben Langdon is James.
Ruben Langdon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry.
Here's my friend James.
Remember, like, I showed Nolan a part of the game early on, and he's like, oh, you gotta get me a part somewhere in there. I'm like, okay, I got something for you.
I got a role for you. But I will say this, because I mean, I was on set just for a brief part of this, but that's when I mean, I've always been a fan of Nolan's work, but that's when I was truly awed by him at how he crafted this character. He took what you had and just really brought it to life.
Yeah, I told him the most important part is don't play a bad guy.
Yeah.
This guy's charismatic. We have to believe that people will follow this guy.
And that Ellie could trust him.
Yeah.
Buddy boy can go get it. He comes back with what I need. The deer is all yours. Anyone else shows up...
You put one right between my eyes.
That's right.
It just shows what versatility Nolan really has.
Yeah, that voice, I mean...
It's so comforting.
It is very comforting, but it's interesting now that I'm hearing it, knowing what we went through. I get, it's a little unsettling now, hearing it. 'Cause I'm like, ugh.
Back up.
It's a weird gameplay thing, but we went through a version where like, okay, she can only carry one long gun at a time, so we have to put the bow on the ground. They're like, no, it's going to be 2 guns. Okay, well, let's put the bow back on her backpack. No, it's she can carry. And we removed the scope. They used to have a scope on it. We're like, oh, we don't want Ellie to have the scope.
Bring him with us.
I remember being so relieved in this scene when we switched the gun out and I got to put the bow down. I was like, ah.
I love how David complies, too. How he just kind of like submits to a little girl.
Well, the thing is like, he knows the stories. He knows what happened in the university. And he's trying to figure this kid out. This whole sequence, he's sizing her up.
How early or how late on in the script did you write David?
I mean, it was written not that long before we shot it.
Because remember you
it
like
started
mentioned,
from
like,
a pretty
Cannibal
small,
King.
yeah, it was referred as the Cannibal King. We just knew that Ellie was going to run into the worst of mankind and she would persevere and come out on the other side. But then once like Nolan came in and started like putting David together, it was like it became a lot more interesting to make him this really charismatic guy that is just infatuated with Ellie. Now when things get real, you see who kind of glimpses of who he really is.
Because there is that moment in that other scene where he makes it seem like, okay, you're in control, but she never was.
Yeah.
Had some practice.
Well, you handled yourself pretty nice back there.
What's cool about David and the conversation I had with Nolan about him is that he's trying to win Ellie over by being honest with her. And here's the part where he's like, I feel like she's ready. I'm going to kind of reveal myself.
No such thing as luck.
And I think like I could still get her to come around.
Now, you see, I believe that everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
The other interesting thing, thematically, that's everything happens for a reason is the same thing that Marlene really believes. That everything happens like it's something she repeats to Joel at the end. But you're kind of seeing how all these characters are just, how much they're willing to go for what they believe in.
When you talked about like being surprised by your own writing, was that a moment like that, or was that something that you had intentionally done to where those characters were going to?
No, I think it's just something you think about, and there's a theme that just kind of sticks around in the project, and then characters end up talking about that stuff because you're thinking about it all the time.
Traveling with a little girl. You see, everything happens for a reason.
Again, another one of those moments where you think Ellie's got control.
Don't get upset. It's not your fault.
Yeah, and then James there.
I'm just a kid.
I love that.
James, lower the gun.
No way, David. I'm not gonna let her go.
It was such a small role, but I really like what Ruben added there. And that the dynamics between James and David, how there's conflict between these two characters, but there's still respect, and he's still listening to David, even though he's questioning his leadership right there.
No, that's not your concern.
Part of me, the way I read that was every time James looked at David, it was like, who the fuck are you right now? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, he was putting on a show and he saw it.
No, thanks.
To me, it's interesting how David almost treats Ellie like quarry. Like, you know, you're a sport.
Yeah.
Again, Ellie having this kind of bullshit detector, you see her scared here because I think she realizes there's something really wrong with these guys. I don't know what. I just need to get away.
So interesting from watching this, though, I would completely believe David. I'd follow the guy. It's crazy.
It's because you're a cannibal. This little moment, this breath before going to see what's downstairs. And again, for players, it would have been like a while now since they've seen Joel.
Joel?
Once again, Joel's asleep.
I only managed to get a little bit of food.
Love how these roles have switched, too. Where now it's, you know, the protected taking care of the protector.
Move your arm.
It used to be open, and then we're like, we should probably stitch that
It
up.
was also on the other side. We had to come back and reshoot it, too. Oh, continuity.
Actually, this one, I remember we shot this one again because this is going Naughty Dog method. Everybody can like say the 2 cents. Amy Puckett, one of our coordinators, said, "Where's Ellie's backpack?" And we shot it without thinking about Ellie's backpack. And it was like, oh, we should bring it back in and use it as a pillow. Right. It's like such a cool little touch.
You're gonna make it.
Yeah, those shivering things was pretty cool.
Yeah. The towel thing, right?
Let's see, you did that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he obviously he animated it, but
a great moment of them falling asleep next to each other too. Again, her watching over him. To me, you really get a sense of the oppressiveness of the world with all the introduction with all of these different kinds of enemies. It's like you feel like you're fighting this multi-front battle. It's not just these are the bad guys, and it's so clear.
Yeah, and just how much Ellie's now willing to put herself on the line to just get them away from Joel.
Wakey, wakey.
It's interesting how much audio has made all of this way creepier. We were watching it without audio.
It's like the Foley of what he's cutting up and back and stuff. Yeah. Ugh.
Time to eat.
And that's the first time you actually see what it is that you've heard them refer to it.
No, actually, this is the first time you just see it, and it's again, I really wanted to downplay the whole cannibalism thing. It's just something they have to do.
Super.
He comes to bring her a tray of food.
This was so cool to watch when you guys were doing the scene. It's just like this battle of the wills where he's just trying to like get in her head and she will not let him. She won't give in.
It's deer.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite scenes to shoot because
Some human helping on the side?
there's just so much there. I mean, the cannibalism and then him being all like rapey and molesty. Like, I don't know. I'm a fan of the dark stuff, which you know. So when I read it, I was like, yes. Which makes me sound like an awful person, which I am. So
I don't know what that says about me that I wrote this.
I know. I remember that night that I went home, I was just in a funky mood.
We have to take care of our own, by any means necessary.
It was like it was a cooler thing to read about it than actually having to go in there. It was really hard to do.
Yeah.
You're gonna chop me up into tiny pieces.
See, again, I see David being this very gracious person. There's
I mean, everything he's saying is kind of true. It's like, you kill to survive, we kill to survive. It's just what you do in this world. But again, Ellie just is feeling there's something else here.
I still don't look at David as a bad guy at this point.
Yeah. Oh, that's what too is like you were talking to me before we got this whole David thing, and it's like, you want to work with Nolan North? I want to do a scene with Nolan North. I want to do this. And I was like, and I'm like, oh, we cast Nolan North. Like, great. I'm like, but you don't act with him at all.
Tease.
Yeah, I feel super lucky I got to work with him because he's
the king.
He's so fun to work with.
I mean, he really owned it. He threw himself into it, like darkness and all. And again, talking to him about it, he's like, I don't see him as dark. Just this is just what he wants. That's it.
I think David believes his own line of bullshit. Or whether it's bullshit or not, I think David believes that he actually is doing the right thing.
I mean, that's the other thing we discussed with Nolan is like there's a religious part to David, even though I never wanted that to come out in the script. But he really kind of believes that he's been sent here and he has this destiny that nothing can really harm him.
What am I supposed to tell the others now?
And you really took that on the chin that day too.
Man, this whole sequence with David, I was so beat up and bruised.
I remember you came back the following day with bruises.
I was like, guys, look at me. I had bruises
Like,
everywhere.
oh, that looks bad, but
we're making a game now.
Yeah.
I love that you made it the little girl that broke your fucking finger.
Yeah. That was a good call, Neil.
Well, he calls her stupid little girl, so she throws it back in his face. I also like that she gives him her name under her conditions, which is, I'm going to give it to you, but I'm going to insult you. Right.
I also like the fact that Ellie is still so strong that even though she's in that cage, she's still
kind of in control.
Yeah.
But it's a much stronger, that's a different strength than you'd shown anywhere else in the game before. It's like that winter was a really, really hard winter for you.
Here's another funny scene.
Well, and you're wrong. I did get to actually act with Nolan in this. Nolan was a trooper and let me torture him.
Although we did record over his lines with Liam O'Brien.
That's right, the lovely Lob.
The lovely Liam O'Brien. This actually is my favorite scene in the game.
Is it really?
And it, after I saw you guys shoot it, and then when I saw the animation and everything, I was like, I just love the scene.
What is it about it you love so much?
I love that Joel is just quietly violent. And that you pop off the guy's
This is his
kneecap.
job, right? This is what he's good at.
Yeah.
And it's also for me, when we talked about this, it's like Joel going back to this, like, all right, you want this guy? I'll be this guy. We've spent almost the entire game for him to stay away from being that guy. But in this, and it's like, I still know
it's like
how
we're
to
going
fuck you
back
up.
to the moment in the beginning we saw him with Robert and Tess.
Yeah.
This is what he does. This is what he's done in this world.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. He's good at it.
Chokes him out and breaks his neck right there. All for the benefit of that guy.
And it's like, if there's any like notion that someone has hurt Ellie, then I'm gonna make every single one of you guys pay.
That's all right. I believe it.
No, wait! And actually, this is the scene where I think he got beat up the most.
Yeah.
Where you did?
Yo, yeah.
Yeah.
I had bruises over my whole entire body. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, this wasn't stunts. This was you.
I warned you.
The thing that I love about this scene is how much Ellie's using her brains and her physicality, like everything, to like get out of this situation.
Right there. Roll up my sleeve. Look at it!
I'll play along.
What'd you say?
Ruben helped so much during this part because choreographing sort of all of the little movements were so particular. And I think everybody sort of knew at this point that I kept hurting people. so I was like, you have to give her the foam knife because she will hit me.
You were beating the shit out of that foam pad. I don't know what you were channeling.
I have a lot of anger.
Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me.
We did very few takes of this. This was like maybe 3 takes.
Yeah.
He tried to...
I just felt like so intense with each one. It was like, yeah, we got it. That's enough.
It's the first time that, Ellie and Joel like embraces that physical contact.
Yeah.
And it's such a great choice, I think, for you to. The dialogue wasn't important.
Yeah, it was just a gesture. So it was like, just let the music take over, and it's the same theme from when his daughter dies. This was the scene where you got the most emotional. You almost cried in this scene.
Oh, that's right.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
First time Joel questions the whole idea of this mission.
But in a different way, though. Before it was, why am I wasting my time doing this? And now I'm saying, maybe that's not what we need. Maybe that's not the answer.
Maybe it's not worth it.
Well, yeah, it's not worth it.
Everything that I've done.
But I love that this comes off of what you said was one of your favorite moments, which was the
giraffe sequence. That fleeting moment where Ellie gets to be a kid one last time after the whole David sequence.
And how you even played that visually with, you just kind of catch the very last end of the giraffes moving there. So here we go.
Oh, Ellie's dead.
And I'm sure it was such an intentional thing to call back to the very beginning, to where Joel finds himself in this situation again. And after everything that we've been through, it's like, I won't go through this. And
Hands in the air.
just again, that irrational, maddening, desperate calling for help.
From this point forward, it's like the beginning backwards, where if this is the point Sarah dies, like now you're about to do the Carrie sequence.
Yeah.
Then you like play as Ellie walking, like viewing Joel from the outside, and then you end on the shot with Ellie. So it's like the beginning reversed.
Sorry about that. They didn't know who you
Let me
were.
see Marlene again.
And Ellie?
She's all right. They brought her back.
The discussions I had with Merle about this scene is, again, her desperation to find someone that will understand, that will empathize with her decision to kill Ellie to save humanity. And she's hoping she could get that out of Joel because he's the only other person that has cared for Ellie the way she has. And she can't get that out of him.
I just think it was such a great way to bookend, to kind of start and begin
Pretty much lost.
with Marlene. And it's so great that they were able to capture just the strength that she has, even when she was sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
And again, she's completely empathetic, even though she's supposed to be antagonistic.
It's a very similar line to what David says.
You don't have to worry about her anymore. We'll take care
I
of her.
worry. Just let me see her, please.
You can't. She's being
This is one I've always seen Joel in the most parental role.
Surgery.
The doctors tell me the cordyceps, the growth inside her, has somehow mutated. It's why she's immune. Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine.
Yeah, her performance here was just
stellar.
So flawless.
It does.
I remember talking with the music guys that were putting a lot of Gustavo's music in, and the first few passes were, there was this dark music that was playing here once Marlene reveals that Ellie's going to die. And I was like, we can't play Marlene as bad because she's not bad.
She's not.
I mean, she's trying to save everybody.
I knew her since she was born.
And if anything, I told them was like, you can go dark with Joel. Because again, when Ellie's life is on the line, Ellie's in danger, he lets himself slip back into the murderer, the killer,
right,
however you want to view it.
It's so interesting. I wonder how many players, like, especially in this moment right here, how many sided with Marlene and how many think that Joel was actually the wrong one. It's like, dude, listen to what she's saying.
But at the same time, this is the theme of the game for me right here is as a father, you will kill everybody else to save your kid. And that has always been kind of the through line for me is Joel's willing to go to the end of the line, meaning sacrifice humanity to save Ellie.
Again,
Robin Atkin Downs.
Guess what's going to happen to him? But this was so cool too because, I mean, we've seen all the way through both cinematic and gameplay, you know, Joel was able to take on everybody, but just this moment of resolve that I'm going to wait for my moment. And it almost looks like he's a beaten, defeated person.
Give me an excuse.
And that grimace right there, it's like, no, he's not.
Which way?
Yeah, again, the way you've interpreted Joel is like a man who lets his emotions get the better of him here has to keep them in check. You see how like he wants to destroy this man and everybody here for what they're doing to Ellie, but he has to wait. He has to catch the right moment.
I said keep walking.
Bam.
Where's the operating room?
And again, just such a brutal scene. There's no threat here. It's
just time. Time is the threat.
Now I'll let you die.
This scene used to originally be all in the operating room. And Joel wasn't carrying Ellie. He killed Marlene and the doctors in the operating room. And then Peter Field, designer, just kept bugging me. He's like, I feel like we have to play this part. It's, you know, you have to carry Ellie out yourself. You can't just be like hinted at. And we ended up switching the whole structure of this thing. He was right. It was like it worked way better.
That was another one of those moments where we're like, we're done, we've got it. No, we don't.
as a cinematic, it was. I thought it was perfect. But as a bigger part of the game, it was weaker than letting you play through some of it.
She won't feel anything.
Again, the only hesitation Joel has is that this is what Ellie wants.
And it's such a great decision to show, just cut to this, give the audience, the player, just one last moment of, well, what did he choose? Just to sit in that decision.
It was also important to show the lie against the reality because the lie has so much weight here at the end. Throughout the game, Joel has never lied to Ellie. He might have disagreed or he might have dismissed her, but he's never outright lied to her.
What happened?
And for me, this was the moment I decided to lie.
We found the fireflies. Turns out there's a whole lot more like you, Ellie. People that
to me, it hurt to say these things.
Ain't done him a damn bit of good.
Because once Ellie started believing that I actually had something, that I was someone, you're basically telling Ellie, you're not special, you're not important, and everything you've done was for nothing.
I'm taking us home.
Yeah, in the first few versions of the scenes, there was like Ellie had all these questions like, what happened? Why? Who was there? Why would they let you take me out with the gown still on? And it just was better if she said nothing and she just turned her back to him. And again, just to show how far Joel's willing to go to remove any threat for Ellie.
I mean, we had talked about this before where, you know, she obviously has that bullshit detector.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like I knew you were lying. You know, I feel like Ellie knows you're lying.
There we go, the end. So, original ending for this, way back when we put the outline for the story together, is that Ellie believed the lie and they went off to Tommy's, and it was kind of like this wide tracking shot as you see them kind of getting smaller and smaller walking off to Tommy's. But as we went through the story and the characters got more and more developed, it's like it didn't feel honest. It didn't feel like Ellie would buy into all of it.
And she got bit too. We didn't know what to do.
I remember we went over and over and over this scene. And little things changed. But every time I sat and watched you tell this story, I was just raptured by it. It was so easy to listen to you tell this story.
I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
None of that is on you.
You don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And you... No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Interesting hearing arguments around the office about how people interpret that last line, that last okay from Ellie. Whether it's, okay, I believe you, or okay, I could put this behind us, or okay, I don't trust you anymore and it's over.
Okay.
That's it.
I hope you guys enjoyed this. We certainly, this is for some of the scenes, it's the first time we had a chance to take a look at it, and it was interesting to kind of, in retrospect, after everything that we've been through, be able to kind of recall what we were thinking on that day, and then, you know, 2.5 years later, how we feel about these things.
It's interesting we're ending this on the credits because there's so many people that have, all these people have put the story together, right? I mean, whether it's artists or programmers, or without all these people, none of this comes through. It doesn't matter how good the story is or the performance is.
There's hundreds of hands that this goes through.
And it gets different kind of interpretations throughout the way until you end up with the final thing that hopefully you guys enjoyed.